Hi everyone, this is Elisa Carr. I'm with Eye of the Heart. That's my practice, and I'm a therapist and a spiritual director. And it is Sunday evening in Austin, Texas, and I just got inspired to come talk a little bit about anger, of all things. Um, Feeling a little tired this evening, but still like just a call to be with you. This is such a really important subject for us to be able to sit with. So for many, we experience anger in such a variety of ways. So you may be someone who doesn't even acknowledge that you have anger or feel like it's a bad thing to experience, or feel guilty if you feel some anger rising up. You may be more on the side of experiencing kind of resentment, like this just underlying irritation or aggravation, or place that I don't know, resentment can just feel really get in there and work its way and just hang around and give you this negative lens to look through life or situations or people through. And you may be on the other end of the spectrum where you rage or lose your temper really easily. Maybe anger is a go-to emotion. And maybe even there's a place where you just really hate. Maybe there's people that you experience that intense kind of disdain or dislike for. So that's what I'm here to invite you to maybe listen to in a different way. And I'm going to share just a little bit about my journey with my own anger and resentment over the past many months. And let me put judgment in there too. Judgment is, I'm finding that to be in this family of emotion. So it is important, especially today, to honor the sacredness of this time, like I have been doing in my other videos, and to show you the candle burning, Mary Magdalene here as our guidess and goddess, and I have the incense burning. I have this a carnelian rock, a red, and this one, I can't even remember the name of this stone right now, but I love the markings and just the shape. It's feels like a powerful energy transmuter. So and yes, I guess I'm gonna also share with you this card, this tarot card. It's from the Herb Crafters Tarot deck, which uses plants and herbs, and this is the 5 of Fire. And in this deck, it's Black Cohosh, and the message in that deck is that anger is sacred. So that's a deck created by Joanna Powell Colbert and Letitia Guthrie, and I highly recommend it. It's awesome. And really that it's been inspiring. This card has been inspiring because during a very challenging time in the past year, where I was going through some intense heartbreak, this card kept coming up for me, and I was really more aware of feeling hurt or sad, and this was sort of calling me forward to claim, like, to let myself experience and express anger. And you'll see the mosaic that I have working in the background, so she's kind of related to this whole topic. But first, I guess there's several layers I want to address. So first is this more on the side of when we are really feeling that rush, that the energy that comes with anger, with rage, with hatred. that feels a little bit different than when we're more in a place of judgment, resentment, and I'll talk about that too. But so when we feel the intense anger like that, there's usually can be one of two responses, or maybe we have both of them. So on the one hand, it can feel good, like it's energizing, and there's a righteousness in it, there's a justification in it. Possibly we've been hurt or offended, and so this energy comes in and wants us to not accept that treatment. And then there can be another experience of it too, which is more like guilt or shame. So especially if our anger has taken over and we have done something destructive, if we've harmed someone else, if we've just gotten into some kind of trouble that's hard to ignore, then we can then judge this anger, and there can be this back and forth, like, here it comes, takes over, it feels awesome and good, and we feel righteous and justified and like a steamroller, can do whatever we want to do. But then after it dies down, we see the wreckage of that, and then have these feelings of guilt and shame. And I just want to invite you, if that is a struggle that you have with that intensity, to start having a different relationship with that anger. And I practice with internal family systems, which is thinking of all of that we have multiple and varied parts of us. And so if you are one who gets overwhelmed by your anger and rage, to think of that as a part of you, and to create a practice for yourself of checking in with that part. And the way that we want to do that is to just get curious. So when it feels really good, there's an attachment to it. And when we're rejecting it, there's that shame and rejection. And neither one of those responses to it is going to help us actually get to know it. And instead of your anger having you can have your anger. And so we acknowledge, yes, those are parts that feel righteous and kind of attached to the anger. And yes, those are parts that are ashamed of it and judge it. And we just ask them, acknowledge them, ask them to consider another way of having relationship with this part of you that gets so angry. Ask them to give you space, and see if you can just get curious about your anger. See if you can see where it is in your body, and maybe see if it can show itself to you as an image. A lot of times anger shows up, or I should say the parts of us that hold the intense anger show up as some type of fire. Maybe it looks like somebody throwing a temper tantrum, or maybe it looks like a raging person. And then we just be with it, and we try to maintain an attitude of curiosity, and we try to maintain an energy of calm, and kind of as if you were responsible for de-escalating a situation or a person, that you would just sit with this part of you and offer it calm energy and let it know you want to get to know it, and that's what you're doing that practice for. That can be kind of a meditation practice. At some point, maybe I can guide you through that with one of these videos. So I'm offering that piece for that intense rage and anger. And then also for the resentment and the judgment. And over the past month or so, I have definitely seen how infiltrated that energy is within me, and how much of a protective response feeling resentment and feeling judgment is for me. And I can see how that just follows in my family line. That's a way that has been learned, and probably just stuck in my cells and in my DNA. And I'm becoming more and more conscious of that, and how much time it's takes up in my thought process to find myself just lost in a loop of thinking in a judgmental, resentful way, aggravated, irritated, just going over and over and over things. So I've been noticing that about me, and so that too, I'm asked to have compassion for that part of me, and I'm asked by this path that I've chosen, and I feel from the spirit and from the draw towards consciousness, it is to be with that in a different way. And so, same as with the rage and the anger, just noticing when it shows up, like, oh, there you are, I see you getting stirred up, and trying to ask it to give me space. And even sometimes, which this isn't purely internal family systems, it's more just like redirecting myself, like, no, I'm not going to spend my time thinking there, I'm going to spend my time thinking creatively, or I'm going to spend my time looking around and seeing what all the gifts that are here and what I'm grateful for in that regard. So there's this other piece of the anger and the rage and the hate and the resentment and the judgment, which I feel like it's just the anger and the hate gone kind of twisted, like when we haven't felt like we could just express that way, it just sort of goes twisted and stretches out and lasts longer and puts its tendrils out. It's instead of shooting out, it kind of like layers itself. But anger, none of this is bad. We must be in this place of non-judgment. And this artwork out here, which I originally drew it, and I'll show you to her. So this is my Kundalini fire dancer. And the Kundalini energy is our life force energy. So Kundalini comes from the more Hindu or Indian tradition. I probably shouldn't even use that word. I'm not that educated in it. But what I understand is it's that energy that winds itself like the serpent up the spine. Kind of how our DNA does. And this imagery of the serpent is significant in multiple areas. So we are familiar with the caduceus, which is the serpents wrapped around the staff. That's a sign of that's a healing sign. It's the medical sign. We could go down a trail with serpent energy, but the point is that it's associated with our life force energy. And so when this Kundalini is activated, it's down in our root chakra, so the bottom of our spine, the bottom of our tailbone, and then into our reproductive area, our vaginal area, in men, just the genitalia area, and that is the seat of our creativity. And if you think about it, so a lot of times it's the sexual energy that wants to get stirred up, and we tend to get hung up on that, and for all kinds of reasons, like either, again, sort of like the anger, either we want to act on it and find a way to release that energy, or we're shameful of it and we want to hide it and bury it and put it in the closet. But it's creative energy, so it winds up, and if we let it flow, and it feels to me like the flip side of this anger, rage, resentment is this enormous capacity for creativity and for life and for energy, for enhancing ourselves. So there's a lot to be said. We would say this to those parts of us that get really attached to the anger and really attached to, ranting and raving about that person we can't stand, or the one that just gets on our last nerve, or I know it can be enjoyable to go through all of that. I'm saying, like, vent like that. And I'm not even judging that. Yes, vent, let it out, but always know, okay, that's just the very first step. The next thing we want to do is get some separation, and know that once that fire in you gets separation, is heard, there are probably multiple things in your life that need to be addressed, that you have total right to feel angry about, not just what's going on right now, but from your childhood, from ways you've been mistreated or oppressed, or I don't know what that is for you. I do just pause for a minute to make room for all of that. This isn't in judgment of any anger. It is an invitation for this different relationship. And once it gets itself expressed, like once it tells you what it's mad about, and once all those areas in your life are starting to be touched upon, here this anger can just turn itself a little bit and be life force energy and be access to creativity. And that's what my dancer is all about for me. It's a freedom to harness that energy and let it pour forth. And I am turning her into the mosaic that you see behind me. I just wanted to include her in this video, even though, as you can see, she's not complete yet. So I will pause there for a minute and just let this energy kind of float around here, and ask you to check in with yourself and what are you feeling in your body? What situations are coming to mind? Maybe people that you are struggling with, where these feelings get stirred up. What images come to mind that represent anger, resentment, judgment? And I just share my own. I've been activated. I was excited and animated, and I'm now just feeling a warmth for any of you who are watching this, and a warmth for your parts that get into this place of anger, rage, hatred, resentment, judgment. And I call forth in you a consideration of this invitation through your anger to tap into that deep life force, creative energy, and to instead of letting it turn into that anger that takes you over and takes control of your life, or instead of it being kind of put a lid on and hid and ashamed of and judged within yourself, that it can move in a different way. You can have a different relationship with it. So thank you for listening to this exchange, and I hope that in some way it's been helpful for you or touched a chord in you. And please leave comments if you feel like it, if you have something to add. And if you want to go deeper and need a guide or someone to assist you with all of this, that is the work that I do. My website is i4heart.com. That's EYE, the number 4, heart.com. And please look at my offerings. I do a meditation group a couple times a month, work individually with people, and offer retreats here at my house. And so we get grounded with our carnelian and I think this might be obsidian. Somebody will tell me, I think. Get grounded with those. I redirect energy, just help it move some in all of us. And please tell me what happens for you. All right. From me and the fiery Kundalini woman dancer, I say goodbye and good night.